to kick off this day with a little bit of energy. I'm going to talk about the state of additive manufacturing, what we know, what we've learned, and what to expect. And all of this is going to be based on my interpretation of what's happened during this COVID crisis. And much of it is going to be tuned towards you, the individual, as opposed to talking to corporations. I want to engage you. Now, before we move on, and I'm not going to use PowerPoint much, just a couple of slides for you. But before we move on, I want to tell you a backstory. I received a call about 2 weeks ago from Dyndrite asking me if I'd participate in this virtual conference, the Dyndrite Developer Council virtual conference. And I told them right off the bat, I said, I don't think I'm the guy. I don't think I'm the guy because I don't have the energy, I don't have the motivation. I feel isolated and I'm a bit down and depressed with regards to additive manufacturing. They turned around and surprised me and said, great, use that, build off of that, because we believe many people out there, many of our attendees are also going to be going through the same thing. So I say that just to offer you a little empathy and also to clarify that my perception was absolutely incorrect. And since I've used that word perception, it got me thinking to a keynote presentation I did last year at the AMUG conference, Additive Manufacturing User Group Conference, entitled Additive Manufacturing, Making Your Own Reality. I want to do this to get you to follow along with me and to consider that things aren't quite what they may appear if you sit back in isolation. Let me share this. Sean and Sarah, can you see my presentation slide?
We can.
Okay, great. So this is from AMUG 2019, Making Your Own Reality. And what I want to note here is that, yes, you can make your own reality. And as a matter of fact, you're doing that right now, and you've been doing that over the past weeks, past months, and past years. Allow me to explain. I want to start by saying that this isn't my idea. Much brighter minds than myself have come to this conclusion. One a scientific mind, the other one a creative mind. The scientific mind, Albert Einstein. He made the statement, reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. Engaging there. Then we go to John Lennon for the creative side. His statement is, reality leaves a lot to the imagination. Let me bring you along here because you're probably pushing back from that, thinking that reality is reality. Well, if we look at fact, truth, and reality, we often think that fact is fact, truth is truth, reality is reality. Well, the situation is that they aren't givens. Fact is only fact if it's constrained. It's taken at a certain period of time under certain circumstances and measured in a contained way. But let's say facts are facts. When we get to truth, they're your personal interpretation of the facts that you choose to receive, not the facts that are all the facts that are out there. And they're processed through your own personal bias, your experiences, your beliefs, your makeup. All of that goes to creating a truth. And then that is further carried through. What you believe is reality is your personal interpretation of all those truths that you've come to accept. That's why we can make our own reality. Now, I forgot to point out, I chose this background not because I'm a boring person and it's a dull image. I chose this because it represented my attitude and possibly yours, where everything is veiled. I'm in a bubble, shrouded by fog, and I can't see the horizon. Now, back to fact, truth, and reality. Let me drive home this point. If you're living with somebody, girlfriend, boyfriend, spouse, children, relatives, whoever, it's often the occasion that one person is warm, the other person is cold. Well, in fact, if you look at the thermostat, there is a given temperature in your house. In this case, I've got 74 degrees. But some people will feel cold, while others will feel hot. How can that possibly be? Well, it's being processed through our experiences, in this case, our DNA or genetic makeup. So the fact is the temperature is 74 degrees. The truth is either I'm comfortable, I'm cold, or I'm hot. And then we drive that out to the reality is this house is hot, this house is perfect, or this house is cold. So with that, I offer that just to get you to realize that it's the pieces of the puzzle that you are picking up and how you interpret those that create the reality. And without or living in isolation and a bubble, you're very likely to perceive additive manufacturing as coming to a standstill, but that's absolutely incorrect. Now, contrary to my perceptions of just a couple of weeks ago, there is new stuff going on. There is innovation going on. There is activity. All it took for me to readjust was to lift my head out of that cloud, that shroud, and take a look at what's going on and truly investigate to understand what the real reality is. Now we're going to change the background, bring it up, a little parting of the sky. Still storm clouds, but now we can at least see out to the horizon, and we got a little bit of sunshine peeking through. So there is new and innovative things going on in hardware, software, materials, and in the use of additive manufacturing. Actions didn't come to a screeching halt. What's going on is all the suppliers who would provide you with the news are trying to deal with this new reality. They're trying to understand, how do they present the information to you such that it gets through, that you hear it, that you see it, that you digest it, and when will you be able to act on that information? So they're just making decisions on when to bring it out. Now, evidence on this. Companies were prepared to launch product at the AMUG conference and at Rapid Plus TCT, which should have started yesterday. They had new and innovative product to show you. Do you really think that that died on the vine and went away? Absolutely not. They're just not sitting back. They're actively deciding when should they release this information to get it to you and when can you act on it. Another point of fact, part of the reason that I was a little down and feeling that things were static was the news wasn't flowing like it usually does. The events didn't happen, but also all of my work evaporated over 10 days. Contracts that I had that were committed to, boom, gone. Things that were behind that for the next wave of work for myself, boom, gone. Well, piece of evidence, 2 of those projects came back. It's just a matter of when they'll start. And I can tell you that those 2 projects are both focusing on a new product that they will be introducing to you. So activity is still there. It's still going on. We have not stopped. We have not ceased and desist. We're moving forward. It's just a matter of us being caught in a perception bubble. So I want to challenge you to stick your head out of that bubble, to erase the fog, to see things clearly, to understand additive manufacturing, what's really going on now. And there's other evidence too. We had evidence yesterday, not new product announcements in day 1 of the DDC, but we had a lot of further information advancing things we already knew, which in itself is news. Dyndrite opened up the day talking about using the Developer Council as a standards body or a pseudo standards body with the goal of having a common core, a common pipeline, software-wise, a common platform for you to control everything about your additive manufacturing environment. Following after Dyndrite was HP. Ryan Palmer presented. And in the Q&A session, he was asked about this pipeline concept with software. The question was, will you apply it to more than additive manufacturing, meaning traditional processes? If you listened hard enough, you would have been a little bit surprised possibly, because he said emphatically, yes. That's something to chew on. We had Impossible Objects stating that they had commercial release of their CBAM2 machine in Q1 2020, which ended just a couple of weeks ago. Well, that was announced in May at Rapid in May of 2019, and now it's available. So there's a status update. Today, you've got EOS talking about open software platform, continuing the thread from yesterday. And we have one company, Plural, who has pre-announced that they will be talking about a new product. That's the Spectral 30 high temperature FFF machine. So things are going on. It's happening. It's active. It's dynamic. But let's move to observation. So hopefully I've gotten you to a point where get you a little engaged, get you a little excited, get you moving forward, and get you to pop your head out. Let's take a look at COVID-19 observations, good and bad. So first off, kind of in the both category, well, not both category, kind of in neither category. It's absolutely heartwarming to see this flood of information coming through the news feeds on additive manufacturing being used to address the crisis we know as COVID-19. Supplying PPE, supplying medical devices, our community has stepped up. And that doesn't surprise me, because additive manufacturing is a very vibrant, very interesting, and very engaged community that is willing to share and step up to the challenge. So Doesn't surprise me, but hats off to everyone who helped. On the good news, I'm not going to belabor this point because as an additive manufacturing practitioner or someone who is pushing towards being an additive manufacturing practitioner, you know this. But COVID-19 shone the light on some strengths of additive manufacturing and just illuminated them, giving them a sense of reality, a sense of depth, a sense of vibrancy. That's speed, all-out speed, the ability to get parts out quickly or products out quickly. Ryan Palmer called that velocity yesterday. I'll just use the term speed. Coupled tightly with that is flexibility, the inherent flexibility of additive manufacturing to adapt to changing needs, changing requirements, changing situations. COVID-19 and the response to it has shown that additive is ideal for that. We also have the ability to flexibly adapt to new designs, such as splitters for ventilators to make one ventilator do the work of two, or companies using the freedom of design to come up with designs that they additively manufacture to satisfy the needs in this crisis, using designs that would be impractical or not feasible with traditional technologies. So all of that is there. And that's leading to what we've really seen, which is a big aha for many. It's been talked about for decades, but it's supply chain. Distributed manufacturing as a concept has been shown. We have individuals working at home, working at libraries, working at schools. We have service bureaus stepping up to the challenge to make parts, face masks and shields and common work, but in a segregated or distributed way. And of course, we have organizations. All this leads to supply chain. Additive manufacturing has proven that it can be a tool, at least as a stopgap, but it can be a tool to resolve supply chain issues. So we've got evidence of that now, and those things, those good things, are what we need to build on when we go forward during the crisis and after the crisis. Do I have time? No, I'm going to push it a little bit. One item that is a pet peeve of mine is the continual chase of matching part cost with traditional processes. I think that's a fool's game, and I think there's a lot bigger win in additive manufacturing than lowering piece part price or matching the current. And I bring that up because in all of the COVID-19 stories, did you once hear somebody say, yeah, but it's too expensive? No. The need was there, and the need trumped the conversations of cost. And I challenge you, as you push forward in additive manufacturing, to look for bigger economic wins than a few pennies, a few dollars on a part. Instead, look at bigger, more expansive and wider reaching gains, or even gains that are so important to the business that monetary issues don't even come into play, such as satisfying the broken supply chain that we have for COVID-19. Now we have to look, that's the good. We want to build on those. Now we have to look to the bad. COVID-19 shone a light on our lack of throughput. The capacity capability, and I'm speaking in general, people can take exception to this, but in general, we don't have the ability for higher volume production. We're a low volume or mid volume solution right now. That, if we want to expand our horizons, needs to change. And I'm confident that people will step up and do so, but it does need to change. And I'm not talking about just the speed of the printing process. It's on the front end, it's during the print, and it's on the back end. We need to work on that. And I am encouraged that vendors or suppliers are looking to do so. But you as a user, until that time comes, have an opportunity to counter that negative by seeking out change in your company, your product, your business model, to create an environment where mid-volume, high mix is really going to serve your company well. You do that, and boom, additive manufacturing is a viable production solution. So build off of the challenges or find out how to mitigate them or to avoid them. Also showed that we need more automation. Automating the process can help us with that throughput challenge, but it also can be used to further liberate that inherent speed and flexibility that we have with additive manufacturing. And as the conversation showed yesterday, the situation has shown that we need better software solutions. Software that fills the gap in design, fills the gap in knowledge for design for additive manufacturing. Software that provides the automation that I just mentioned. Software that mitigates all the human touch points. And software that supports this distributed manufacturing environment. A tool that can collect the operations of multiple locations on a common schedule without manual data entry, without a human interpretation, with automatically feeding and moving to the Industry 4.0 kind of concept. The other thing that's revealed is we desperately need, it's been worked on, standards, certifications, and best practice information. With people doing their own thing for face shields and masks and respiratory devices, it's shown the light on the fact that we don't have given standards, and that's a barrier, because what happens, the easiest way to connect the dots on this is with best practices. What happens is it's up to the individual company to work through that, to understand what is suitable, what is allowable, what will suffice in the application, and that's just unrealistic. That's a huge barrier for us to have progress. It impedes us. It puts a governor on our throttle for additive manufacturing. So we need more work on the standards, on the certifications, on the protocols, and on the best practices. So we need to focus on the positives, work on addressing those limitations to emerge stronger. The last point on the negative is another pet peeve of mine, and that's using additive manufacturing because we can. That is a scenario that potentially will cause you backlash. You do it because you can, not because you should. And in the future, an initiative could be stalled because someone points back and says, that was not a viable solution. You should have done it another way. You should have done it the traditional way. I bring this up because I look at the face shields. Do we really need to additively manufacture the headband? Is that an effective way to do things? I'm no expert, but I look at it and say, couldn't we take clear plastic sheet, cut it to size, which has to be done for the additive manufacturing solution, cut it to size, attach some foam on the upper edge of that plastic sheet, and then put some elastic bands around it, and now we have a face mask. Why spend hours or days making the headband? People might be doing it just because we can. Now, there might be a really strong case for using additive manufacturing I'm not aware of, but I use that just as a cautionary tale. I found DIY for making a face mask, as I just described, with a 1-minute Google search, and there's a supporting video. So don't do it just because we can, which drives home the point. All of us need to elevate our understanding of additive manufacturing, when it makes sense, why it makes sense, how to use it, and how to leverage the strengths and overcome the limitations. That's something you and I can all do better than we are today, but it's also something I encourage you to become a champion of within your organization, to get others to that, not same level, but elevate others in their understanding of additive manufacturing. So all of this said, I believe the additive manufacturing industry will emerge stronger. I believe the suppliers of solutions will use this learning from COVID and apply it to build on the strengths and overcome the limitations. I also believe you as an individual can help your organization to emerge stronger, not having the goal of emerging the same as we were. But there is one challenge here. Well, there was one point I forgot that I want to make. So we are going to come out of this stronger. It may take a little time. There might be some delays while we get all of our gears meshed to take off. But there is one negative thing I want to tell you. It's going to happen, but don't allow yourself or others to use it as a fact that leads to a reality that is incorrect. And that is, there will be a culling of the herd. Companies will fail and go by the wayside who are supplying hardware, software, and material solutions, and there are products that will go by the wayside. It is my belief that additive manufacturing has too many suppliers for too small of a pie. So this will be a natural selection. Has no bearing or indication on the health of the industry. Instead, it shows that the companies that came in weak financially, organizationally, or their products were weak, may not make it out of this. But if that happens, which I think it will, do not allow that to be a point that others use and say, look, additive manufacturing is suffering, it's stalled, it's not progressing, not going forward. The other word of caution I have for you is to beware status quo. Now, you and I push things. We want to do better. We don't want to return to normal. But there is a huge contingency of people out there that would love to see things go back to status quo. And more importantly, when we come out of this and things are a little bit tenuous, maybe dire for some companies, a lot of people are going to perceive doing things the old way as the safer bet. A return to normal rather than trying something new, because change represents a perceived risk. But you can use this to your advantage. Go back to the slide presentation. Can you see my slide, Sarah?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I call this having your back against the status quo wall. Back against the wall is a common phrase. Back against the status quo wall. What this means is using status quo situations as leverage to show that you need to do things differently. So let's say your supply chain broke badly during this, and you go to status quo, that supply chain problem will still exist. When people are in a situation of, if I do status quo, I will fail, guess what? They're open to change. So presented with, if I do status quo, I will fail. If I try something new, I have a chance of succeeding. Guess what they're going to go for? A chance of succeeding. Use that to your advantage. Prepare with information to show how additive manufacturing can help you out of whatever jams appear during COVID-19, the COVID-19 crisis. Matter of fact, a lot of the great stories of additive manufacturing and great use cases, at least initial use cases within companies, were not because the people were innovative and progressive and wanted to change the world. A lot of the best stories are because they were faced with the challenge of, if I continue to injection mold or CNC machine or investment cast, I will fail. So they tried additive manufacturing to have a hope of succeeding, and they did succeed, and that gave it oomph, it gave it effort, it gave it momentum, and it gave it a proof point. So I'm moving towards wrapping up here. So I just want to leave this with my request for you. You've already shown initiative by being here in the DDC virtual conference. Congratulations. You know, it's those that aren't doing these sort of things that I worry about. But I implore you to do more so you can pop your head out of this perception bubble. Take advantage of all the webinars that are going on. Dig in and find the news if it's not presented to you. And also, go back and reflect on things that you were presented with in the past but didn't have time to digest. I go right back to impossible objects. They announced in May 2019, but commercial launch was first quarter of 2020. That happens many, many times. So why not take this time? It's a little bit of a breather, actually, from this flood of new that comes at us in additive manufacturing. Why not take this time as a breather and go back and reflect on the things that caught your attention a year ago, and then come back to it and make a phone call, reach out and get a status update on things. And you may find that you've got a new solution to existing problems or new problems from COVID-19. I also implore you to look at all the things in your business that you have exposure to or control over and break them down. What broke? What bad happened? Why did it happen? What can we do to fix it? And can additive manufacturing be part of that solution? Go through that process, and you can use the tool to emerge stronger. You may find that additive manufacturing is not just a stopgap solution. You may find that it is the solution for these products or these product types. But you're just as likely to find that it's an alternative solution for when things break. You know, in that situation, the norm would be the power grid, and you use additive manufacturing as that instant on generator that kicks on when the power grid goes down. Dig in, and as I've already said, really work hard to understand and to get others to understand when additive makes sense, why it makes sense, what the justification is for using additive manufacturing, and you will be prepared to tackle those who want to see status quo. You'll be prepared to attack situations where things broke, and you'll be armed with information And all of this goes into a plan that I believe allows you to emerge stronger. So wrap all this up. These are tough times. Without a doubt, these are tough times. I'm doing this from my basement. Got a kitty cat in the next room who's isolated, who's meowing at me. I do have jeans on, not shorts, but it's a rough time. But if we fall into kind of a self-pity or an isolation kind of mode, we won't emerge stronger, we'll emerge weaker. So I encourage you to keep poking your head out, asking questions, seeking information, soldiering on, and looking to come out of this by emerging stronger. You as an individual with your knowledge, your skills, whatever you're capable of and good at, and your organization that you work for. Sarah, with that, I'll turn it back over to you if we would like to open it up for Q&A. By the way, thank you everyone for joining us today. It was my pleasure, and it really helped me to have to do this, to lift myself out of that depressive state regarding attitude on additive manufacturing. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. That was a wonderful presentation. Especially appreciated how we must move forward together to build a more agile and stronger industry. All right, I've got a first question from Michael Petch at 3D Printing Industry. Hi, Todd. I'm sure I speak for others when I say we missed your energy at AMUG and your customary sprint through what's new. With this in mind, can you say anything about new products that have caught your eye in 2020?
Michael, hello to you. And yeah, I miss being up on stage, and hopefully I brought some of that energy to this presentation. It's a little hard to do with a webcam staring at me. Brutally honest to you, Michael, we don't have new product announcements in January and February. Those are the doldrums. So it's March, April. Well, I got myself caught in that trap, and I wasn't looking for new information. So I don't have it. It's only been 2 weeks that I've lifted myself out of there. Now, there are some things that I'm excited by, including from partners in the Dyndrite Developer Council, that I'm not at liberty to talk about. So, and thank you, partners, for sharing that information with me, because that did a lot to lift my spirits and my enthusiasm on the industry. So, Michael, I'm sorry, I don't have anything for you. I need to pick myself up and start finding that stuff as soon as we end this call.
Thank you, Todd. And thank you, Michael. All right, next question from Fabio Santana. Hello, Todd, nice speech. What do you think is the area that needs faster standardization?
Ooh. All right, let me go after another pet peeve. I think aerospace and defense is being addressed. I would like to see a standards body work more for the average company. It makes sense to go after aerospace and defense, but that doesn't serve the consumer goods people, on and on and on. So I would just like to see more work building off of possibly what came out of there, but it's applicable for the average Joe, for the average company, and can be interpreted by them without understanding technology readiness levels and all of the acronyms and jargon. So any particular area, nothing comes to mind. Haven't really debated that question, but I would just in general like to see it be more broad-based.
All right, thank you, Todd. Looks like we are out of time for Q&A.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you.